Need a sewing needle or a giant sewing needle to use for props when I'm talking about Leo. Um, at some point in time, maybe. I don't know. Giant sewing needle may not work. Crochet needle might work. I don't know. Well, we know there's the stitch fruit. Is there the crochet fruit? I don't know. And there's the string fruit. Um, so another One Piece reunions video. This one is the second half of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet reunions. This one is going over Ideo, Leo, Hyrudine, and Orlumbus in regards to that section. You'll notice I'm not really going to talk about Bellamy on these, mostly just because I don't really expect Bellamy to pop back up again. He's had his, bad arc and redemption arc and went off to make flags. I don't expect to see Bellamy again. If we do, that's fine. If we don't, I'm not really all that concerned about Bellamy. But moving into this part of the Grand Fleet. So Ideo, and that also of course on his crew includes Blue Gilly and Abdul, or Abdullah, whatever it is, and Jeet. And how we go through and see them. So we know that they started off as just like triple X martial arts, whatever thing. And then after they found an island where there was long leg and long arm people fighting each other, which we know that war has been going on for a very long time between those two people. And one thing that I do like again about the, Ideo's crew is that it represents, he's a long arm tribe member and Blue Gilly is a long leg tribe member. And, I don't remember if there's ever any moments in Dressrosa throughout the arc of Dressrosa, because I know that we see them interact with each other every now and then, particularly after they're no longer toys and they're running around trying to help Luffy and the others. I don't remember if we ever have a moment where one of them says, you're a long arm person, or you're a long leg person. What are you doing here, or whatever. I don't remember ever seeing any of that type of an interaction between the two of them. I could be wrong. But I don't remember there being that interaction between them at any given time. And if there was, please let me know, because I just don't remember. But those two getting along, and like they land, them and the other two land on the islands for people. Not that, I can't really judge because Luffy's crew started off as him in a dinghy, and then him and Zoro in a tiny boat, and then him, Nami, and Zoro on like two boats, and then them when Usopp on the Mary, and so it's not like a 4-man crew. Although I have no idea which one of them is the navigator. I would hope one of them's a navigator of some kind, or at least has some of those skills. Otherwise, they may not last very long on the New World. But just them showing back up and getting have gotten stronger. Maybe they have some combo attacks. We know that Abdul and Jeet are they were a bounty hunting duo to begin with, so they already know how to work together. And then get Blue Gilly and Ideo involved in this, and that should definitely help with getting some good combo moves down. Also, Ideo has that like arm cannon thing that he does, which just the way that he I practice and I can my shoulders up. I'm like, just looking at that just goes, oh god, that looks painful. In general. So it'll be interesting to see just, them showing back up again. I don't really have too much else there because we don't have unlike with Bartolomeo, we don't have this, idealization, this infatuation to a degree that that Bartolomeo has with Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hats. Ideo and the others are definitely exceedingly grateful to them for for freeing them from the, Doflamingos, from, Sugar's devil fruit power and stuff. And then, of course, for saving them in Dressrosa and everything. I mean, they helped with saving Dressrosa as well. So it's not like they didn't do anything, but, they helped with saving Dressrosa and everything, and trying, all of them tried to stop, the birdcage from coming, from closing in around the city and closing in and killing everybody. But I'm not really sure. There's not that idealization that happens there, but it'll be still fun to see them again. And even if it's just like, oh, they show up and they're helping take care of riffraff from the Marines or Blackbeard's crew or whatever. Again, fun. Next up, we have Leo and the Tontatta pirates, that of course have Kabu and Bine as two of them, along with a whole bunch of the other Tontattas. Leo and Sai already had a little mini reunion at Reverie, obviously, and Leo has gotten to meet Vivi and such. So Vivi is somewhat aware of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Also, I think it was Cavendish, because I remember I thought I had heard something where it was like someone did like an interview with the Economic World Times or whatever it's called, Economic Journal, whatever it's called. The paper in One Piece that Morgan's has, and I thought that it was Cavendish that did like an interview with them, and then like gave some information about like, oh yes, we're the Straw Hat Grand Fleet and everything, and we're wonderful and blah blah blah. I thought that there was that, but I need to double check that, because even if Vivi hadn't read about the Grand Fleet in the newspaper, she was there and she met Sai and Leo, and she's aware of it. But that's going into a territory I want to cover in a different video. Given certain things that are going on in Egghead Island right now, if it's not something that's addressed in the next chapter, I may have a video about it. So we'll see what I'm going to do with that. For an idea of like how the Straw Hat Grand Fleet or some of them could show up at Egghead. But again, I'm not sure exactly how that's going to form. It depends on what happens in the next chapter. And, Leo and the Tontattas, of course, they can't really go anywhere on their own. I mean, yes, they have their little ship, the Usolando, whatever it was called. They have that. But, they can't really go very far in the ship. So I would think that, wherever they want to go, then, the Dressrosa military would be perfectly happy with, escorting them there. And such. I mean, like, Leo and the Tontattas were acting as, bodyguards for Rebecca and Viola and Riku and Kyros and stuff. Not that Kyros really needs his own bodyguard, but still they were there helping with that. And, they were, they're there helping take care of that and stuff. And of course, having the Tontatta around, if there ends up being a big final battle, Leo's devil fruit can definitely be exceedingly useful in regards to, pinning down enemies and stuff like that. Or, if an enemy falls, and Leo can just go and, like, stitch them to the ground so they can't get away. And of course, Leo combined with Moshiri's healing devil fruit, those two working together would be very good when it comes to, medicine and treatment and stuff like that, like they did with Law's arm, and like she was able to do after the battle, in regards to, healing the citizens and the Marines and stuff like that. So those would be very interesting there and very helpful in that regard. Also, I mentioned Kabu and Vine, so they have their, and I mentioned this back when I was doing like the Straw Hat Animal Allies videos. They of course have their, beetles and their, hornets that they have. The only time I would be happy to see a giant crew of hornets coming near me, if they were, being led by Bine and they're pink. I'm like, I'm okay with this. I can deal with this. Just please don't sting me. But one of, like having them there, having like all of the different, Tontatta related allies, of course, if I've mentioned, that are the animals, having those around would definitely be useful in regards to, sending information and stuff like that in regards to communicating, having them, help with observations and, gathering intel and, just seeing what's going on in the battle and stuff like that, or just showing up and acting like a distraction as they did in Dressrosa. They acted as distractions at times, to help with, getting to sugar and stuff like that. So having some of them around would be very useful in that regard as well. Also, Kabu and Vine, since they're already Tontada and then they have the insect devil fruits, they can be quite small. And of course, the Tontada in general are very good at getting into hard to get to places. So them being able to get into certain areas, either getting into areas in Marijois or the, Marine headquarters now, or around the Blackbeard Island and stuff like that. That would be a good way of gathering information and, just, going after and finding out where certain things are. If there is a poneglyph in any of those areas, I don't think there's one at Marineford. That would be very surprising. But having one on Hachinosu would make sense, and possibly having one in Marijois that they got their hands on at some point in time would also make sense. But so that's kind of what I would see when it comes to the Leo and the Tontada pirates in regards to how they can show back up again. Also, I know there's the running gag that, because Usopp was playing up with it in Wano about him having, Conqueror's Haki and stuff like that because he was messing with the Beast Pirates. I was pretending that the Conqueror's Haki waves that were coming from Big Mom were from him, just to mess with the Beast Pirates, which is just funny. It's Big Mom is around you. Why are you falling for this? That having him around, and just having him pretending to act like that would just make Leo and the other Tontadas just be like, oh my god, he's so wonderful. Our god Usopp is even more amazing. Also, just they already really like Luffy anyway, so just them finding out that, well, okay, so again, it's not like Luffy is aware of the fact that he is, the sun god Nika, when he, that's his devil fruit now. The only ones that would be able to tell him that would be Vegapunk, and unless they're able to save Vegapunk, don't know if that's going to get revealed to Luffy anytime soon until I don't know, whatever final battle, if Im-sama is someone that can fight. Then we have Hyrule, or Hyrule. I'm just going to call him Hyrule because that's how I kept hearing it. And the new giant warrior pirates, which include Stanson, Road, Goldberg, and Gerd. We know that all of them had originally been part of Buggy's delivery service as some of the different bounty hunters and stuff like that. And then, of course, after everything that happened at Dressrosa, Hyrule's yeah, no, we're gonna go and we're gonna be part of the Grand Fleet now. And they do that. And Buggy's like, oh god, I lost all of my big money makers. This is not good. But we know, of course, about some of the past in regards to Gerd and Hyrule have a past that involves Big Mom, and Stanson, if I remember correctly, does have a past involving the Straw Hats because I think he was the giant that was at the slave auction house or the human auction house in Sabaody when they were there, and they freed everyone and freed Kami and Rayleigh helped and everything. That Stanson, I think, was the giant that was there at the time. And so he would already kind of have this debt to the Straw Hats, and finding out that Hyrule now also has this debt to the Straw Hats would just be oh, well, this is great. And then, of course, they would have probably learned that, because as I said, Hyrule and Gerd are well aware of, what happened with Big Mom, and then, Road and Goldberg were born during that time frame, so they probably learned about that as well. And Stanson was probably around at that time anyway. I don't remember how old Stanson is, but, I don't know, whenever he was captured by the humans, but there's a long enough time that he probably would have been on Elbaf or so to learn about what happened with Big Mom. Anyway, so all of them would know about the fact that Luffy went and made his way into Big Mom's territory and was part of, the plot to assassinate Big Mom and everything. And then, of course, that he was also there on Wano and that he was probably also involved in taking down Big Mom in some way. Yes, most of the credit for that does rightfully go to Law and Kid, but Luffy was a part of it to a degree in regards to dealing with Big Mom. So having them around and having like them be aware of that history would also just give them a bit more of an indebted, in being indebted to the Straw Hats. Also, now that we know that Dory and Bragi are returned to Elbath, via either, however, whether it was, Oimo and Kashi that got them back, or if it was they returned on their own, or however that little bit ended up, which we'll find out at some point in time, whether or not it was either, one of the, Oimo and Kashi showed up at Little Garden, was like, hey, captains, it's time to come home. You've battled long enough. Let's go home. Just do a game of rock, paper, scissors, and whoever wins is the winner, and then we'll just go home. However the case may be. We'll go home. We'll make you new weapons. It's fine. We got to deal with a whole bunch of other stuff right now. Oh, and we got some stories to tell you about Elbath and about this little girl and about a whole bunch of other stuff that happened. We got a whole bunch of stories to tell you. Oh, did we tell you we kind of got trapped by the world government for like 50 years? Yeah, we got stories. We met your little friends, the Straw Hat with the guy with the long nose and the stretchy kid. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, we met them. Come on. So, there would be like a whole bunch of stuff going on there. And of course, Hyrudine meeting, I don't know if, I do not know if we ever find out if Hyrudine knows that Luffy and the others know A, Dory and Bragi, B, Oimo and Kashi. I don't know if during Dressrosa at all if that comes up for Hyrudine. For him to become aware of that, or if he would become aware of that later, particularly if the new Giant Warrior Pirates, okay, we know that Shanks is on Elbath, and we know that he knows Oimo and Kashi and Dory and Bragi somehow, whether it was he met them at some point in time when they were traveling through, or whether he met Dory and Bragi when he was a kid on Roger's crew, because they stopped at Little Garden, or just whatever that ended up being. But he knows the four of them, or has been introduced to Oimo and Kashi during that time frame, or Shanks was possibly involved in certain things. I don't know. We'll find out later about that. But we know that Shanks is on Elbath, and I would think that because Hyrudine and the others are from Elbath, and because Shanks really doesn't have a quarrel with Luffy at the moment, that had Hyrudine and the other Giant Warrior Pirates, the new Giant Warrior Pirates, ended up on Elbath, either to maybe go and, see what was going on there, or, if they hear the news that Dory and Bragi have returned to Elbath, they're going to want to go and see them because Hyrudine idolized them as a kid when they were growing up. So he probably want to go and see them. And then he can find out about this connection between the Straw Hats and Dory and Bragi and Oimo and Kashi, and that he has this even greater debt to the Straw Hats, and the fact that it was just like, oh my God, Luffy and the others knew about knew these four giants, and that they're the ones that got Oimo and Kashi. They're the reason Oimo and Kashi weren't being held captive by the world government anymore. And, they met Dory and Bragi and they, befriended them. And, there's, certain things that have helped with, getting them back home to a degree. And, I can definitely see Hyrudine and the other new Giant Warrior Pirates being like, oh my God, now we're just even more indebted to the Straw Hats. Not that Luffy would expect them to pay any type of a debt back to him or whatever. He didn't even want the Straw Hat Grand Fleet to happen in the beginning anyway, but still. I don't think that Shanks would have a problem if Hyrudine and the others showed up and just not showing up with cannons blazing or anything like that, ready to attack, because they wouldn't want to attack Elbath anyway, because Elbath is their home. And that's where their family and other friends are. And I can see it being that they show up at Elbath and they've been informed that Dory and Bragi have returned. And, Hyrudine is just they have their flag and everything. And they're they send either a messenger, like maybe Gold, like Rhodes, or like, Gerds, the messenger or whatever, and she goes and talks to him because she's the doctor. She can definitely still fight, but she's the doctor. And she goes and she explains to, maybe her and Rockstar meet, and she's like, okay, so, we just wish to return to Elbaf so we can see Dory and Bragi again and inform them of some other things that have been going on and find out, why they've returned. Also, we have, whatever information about stuff um in regards to Straw Hat Luffy and stuff. And I can see that, like, maybe, Rockstar would just like return to Shanks and like tell them that, or like they'd have like the Den machine and like they can communicate that way. um and I can see that Shanks would be okay with that. Like, you promise not to cause any trouble or anything like that. Of course, why would we cause trouble? This is our home. We're not here to invade. We're not here to do anything like that. We just want to see Dory and Bragi because we've idolized them since we were children. Okay, I can see Shanks being perfectly okay with that and allowing, Head and the others to, come on land and, come to Elbaf, come ashore and, go and see Dory and Bragi and everything. I can see that happening perfectly fine, and then finding out more about this connection and everything. It's like Herodine would be like, "Hey, Dory, Bragi, hey, I've idolized you guys since I was a kid. I thought you were great. How'd that 100-year duel go? However that goes, and like, okay, kid. Well, what have you been up to? You seem to have started the Giant Warrior Pirates again. What's going on there?" Well, we worked for this clown for a while, and he was okay, but then I was on Dressrosa, and then I met this rubber guy named Luffy. A guy named Luffy? Yeah, Straw Hat Luffy. Shows him the bounty post or whatever. Hey, we know that kid. Just like however that would go. But, I don't see Shanks having a problem with, the new Giant Warrior Pirates coming to Elbaf and like seeing Dory and Bragi. I don't see that being an issue, the way that like it is with like Kid showing up, because Kid is there to fight, to cause problems and everything like that. The big difference there, very big difference there. Or even if it was like, even if like, Hyrule and the others like showed up before that happened. Also, Hyrule and the others are part of getting all of the books off of Ohara and taking them back to Elbaf, and everything was Saul. So there's that connection there. And while they may not know that Luffy and the others are looking for the poneglyphs, again, having that connection there with like going to see Saul, they would be able to tell him, hey, we found Robin. We met her. We worked with her. We fought, Hyrule would be like, I met her. I fought alongside her. I partied alongside her a little bit more, at the end of it, because Hyrule didn't have a huge amount of interaction with Robin, but, he was, they were there, and mostly on the ship they probably met, when they were leaving Dressrosa. But, talk about that type of stuff as well, and, like, see some of those, interactions there would be good, too. Again, I don't see Shanks having a problem with that. But that would just depend on like whether or not Hyrule and the others are aware that Dory and Bragi are back, or if they were on Elbaf and then they left again, and then if they hear that Dory and Bragi are back, however that goes. Although, as I stated before, I'm going to be exceedingly happy if we ever, when we ever do get the reveal where like Usopp and the original Straw Hats that were on Little Garden when they met Dory and Bragi. If like Dory and Bragi, with Shanks and the red-haired pirates, they rock up to, wherever it is, Laugh Tale or wherever, if they rock up to Laugh Tale or walk up to, Marineford or, Marijois, wherever the big final battle is going to happen, if they rock up to there with this red-haired pirates, Luffy and the others are going to be like, wait a second, isn't that Dory and Bragi? Yeah. How are they here? I don't know. We'll find out later. It's okay. It's like they're just gonna be in awe about that. I mean, like Zoro's probably not gonna show anything, but like, Nami and Luffy and Usopp are definitely gonna be happy about it. And Chopper's gonna be like, oh my god, other giants, and Frankie's gonna be like, oh my god, they look cool, and all that stuff. Sanji might be a little bit more like, hey, it's nice to see them again. And stuff. So there's all of that. That was section was longer than I wanted it to be. Sorry. And then we have Orlumbus, which Orlumbus isn't going to have nearly as much for me to talk about. But then we have Orlumbus. And Columbus is, of course, he's got the Yonta Maria fleet with, Columbus and with all of his additional men, with like, I think it was like 4 or 5,000 additional men that are all part of his fleet. Um, and I was telling Mom about them a little bit. I was like, Luffy, Straw Hats, Grand Fleet, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, so, um, there is one of them is called Orlumbus, slightly kind of based off of Columbus in that regard, and there's actually someone on his cruise named Columbus. Um, and they're kind of their first act as being pirates is they actually end up going to like this island that they intend to, quote unquote raid, and then they get there and they find that everybody's just hungry and poor, and then they give them food, and I'm like, yeah, I'd say Luffy would agree with that, would approve of that as like your first act as being a pirate. Um, I mean, like, yeah, Luffy's not going to take food from people that he knows doesn't have any more food. He's not going to do that. That's not really in Luffy's character. But I don't really have too much to say about Columbus. Again, him and his grand fleet with, the Yonta Maria fleet with Columbus there and everything. It was, I think, his niece or something. I think. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember. Um, she's not his sister or anything like that. She's either like his niece or like just some, I guess, young girl that like impressed him enough to be his second in command, I guess. I don't remember what her connection is to him exactly, but them showing up. Not really too much with them. I mean, out of all of the different captains in the Grand Fleet, Orlumbus kind of got the least amount of character development. I mean, yeah, he kind of did like the fastball special with Zoro, which I am well aware of the fact that like him throwing Zoro across Dressrosa, however that went, that is basically a reference to there's a thing that they do in Marvel between where Wolverine usually gets thrown like a baseball, gets thrown usually by the Hulk or Beast or one of the other larger members, like Thing or something like that. One of the other stronger buff members that can, like, throw him. It happens to She-Hulk once too, and she throws him. And I know there's a joke that happens with this where she's like, where She-Hulk's the one that's going to throw him. And she's like, hey, you got a nice, tight little butt back here. And he's like, first rule about the fastball special, we don't talk about the fastball special. And then she throws him. So it's just like, I know Orlumbus threw Zoro like that and everything like that. Like having Orlumbus and his crew around would be very good for taking care of a bunch of the different like riffraff for the Marines or riffraff for Blackbeard's crew. Dealing with riffraff, I guess, in Marie Joie and stuff like that to a degree. But the Marie Joie stuff would also include like the Marines and whatever. Same thing with like the way that, Sai's fleet, the Hoppo Navy would also be very good with dealing with a bunch of the different, riffraff and, just, helping even out the numbers in regards to a battle. So there's that, but there's not really a huge else that I really want to say about Orlumbus. Yeah. The Straw Hat Grand Fleet showing up. There is, the whole incident on Egghead Island that we're aware is currently happening and is, about to unfold over the next day or so in the manga. That maybe the Grand Fleet are involved in that. Maybe that's what they're talking about. Maybe there's something else that the Grand Fleet are going to be involved in for this like big historic event that'll happen. That could involve either Egghead or something with Marie Joie or Marines or Blackbeard or Laughtail or however the case goes. I do have a thought about how like that could happen, how they could show up at Egghead, but I'm working on how to figure that into a video if it's not something that doesn't get addressed in the chapter. If that does happen or if it's not shown in the next chapter, I'm kind of thinking about, okay, well, how could that work? And I'm thinking on that one. Although at the end of the week, Mom and I are taking the kids to Omaha to go to a museum and indoor gardens and some other places. So I don't think I'll be having beyond like the Digimon video on Sunday and the chapter review. I believe that'll be coming out Thursday or Friday this week. It'll still be like next week before I get another video up for One Piece. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I rambled a bit about Hyrule, Dean, and Dorian Broggy and stuff, but I figured it was warranted since it does fit into stuff. But yes, also just, them, Hyrule and the others finding out that you have technically been following a god. So you're not wrong in that in regards to like Luffy and everything, being Sun God Nika. So we'll see how that goes. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.